mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about Season 2, Episode 3 of Hulu's Only Murders in the Building, entitled The Last Days of Bunny Folger. This episode essentially, the title says it all. It follows the last days of Bunny Folger, although it is in plural when it just follows the last day. And I think that's an interesting concept. I like the idea of Oliver poses this, and they don't really explore it too much, but I do think it's interesting. The idea of, do you feel like it's your last day on Earth if it's your last day? Like, did Bunny walk around knowing and feeling like something was amiss? Like, this just doesn't feel right. You know, it seems like she did have that feeling. And I'm curious if that's a thing. I would like to have something explore that, some show. This show probably won't, but I thought it was an interesting concept. And we see a lot of interesting behavior in Bunny that leads me to think that maybe she did have that feeling. The whole thing at the end with her clearly being really nice to the group, Charles, Mabel, and Oliver, being really nice to them, clearly wanting to hang out, clearly being hurt when they didn't invite her. That was outside of her normal behavior. And if you have a feeling like today might be my last day, even if for her, today might be my last day as board president and I might be moving to Boca Raton, but something in her felt like she wanted to behave differently that day. And, the large sum of money that she gave to the waiter makes me wonder if she did know it was going to be her last day. But like I said, again, it could have just been like she plans on moving to Boca Raton, so she just want to give these kind of like unofficial goodbyes. But I'm going to talk about some of that in a little bit, but there's a couple of things I want to talk about first. The first thing I want to talk about was the fact that this show, and I mentioned this in last week's video, that this show tends to have this habit of wanting to present to you a new suspect each week. And this week, that suspect was clearly Nina. And I think even to a degree, after episodes 1 and 2, they didn't really put forth the suspect. But I know leaving episode 1 and 2, Nina was on my list of potentials just because of the idea of like, okay, this person is clearly power hungry and someone who is looking forward to taking over this role. She just seems suspicious to me. So she was already on my list, but this episode really puts her at the forefront of who could potentially be the person who killed Bunny. And I think it's interesting too that we didn't even see, I don't remember her name, but Cara Delevingne's character, the person who owned the art gallery or whatever. We didn't see her at all this week. And, she kind of like stood out to me last week, but her not being here is interesting to me too, because anytime there's a character who is prevalent at one point and then disappears the next, I always look at that as the show wants you to kind of forget about that person so they can bring them back later to a bigger effect. So wondering about that. But I'm going to tackle this week's episode the same way I did the first 2 episodes in last week's video, which is I'm just going to go over what we learned this week, and then we'll just kind of talk about it. Well, I'm going to talk about it. You're going to listen, but you can talk about it in the comments with me if you like. So let's see. What did we learn? Okay, we learned she was planning on moving to Boca Raton. I don't quite know how I feel about this bit of information. When we first learned it, she's like, it's great. She said something to the effect of like, there's places here where it doesn't snow or where it doesn't get cold. I can't remember which thing she said. But then when the elevator stalls and Charles freaks out, she calmly takes care of it. Mabel is impressed. Charles is impressed. And she seems validated by their positive impression of her. And then she gets out of the elevator and goes, I just realized I don't even like being hot. And I took that as not literally she doesn't like being hot, but what she thought she wanted, she no longer wants, which in this case is not about Boca Raton or being hot. It's about being the board president. I think being hot is I'm drawing a blank on the phrase that I want to use, but a metaphor for her thinking that she didn't want to be board president anymore, that she was ready to move on, and she's really not. So that's something we learned. I'm not sure if that's going to come into play. I may be reading too much into it, but there was a big emphasis on Boca Raton, and I'm wondering if that's going to come into play. We also learned she's been coaching Nina on how to take over. But we also know that it seems like maybe Nina might have just been placating her a little bit, just kind of playing along and having these conversations, when in reality, Nina has her own agenda. And we see that when she's like, I'm not going to let you stop me. She gets very upset at the idea of Bunny not retiring. And granted, it's on the last day, so you're going to kind of be like, how are you going to take this from me on the last day if you're Nina and she's looking forward to that? But there is a certain level of maybe you're too into this, and she calls her power-hungry baby bump bitch or something like that. But there's something to be said about getting that upset about not taking over that kind of role. Like, who really cares? It's not even like your job. Like, there's just some extracurricular shit you do. So, like, why would you be that fired up about it? But I think the reading the minutes and reading what was his name, Howard, reading what he wrote down, because we know he wrote down verbatim what she said because he read back what Bunny said in the previous meeting's minutes. So we know that he wrote down exactly what Nina said. And if you are Charles, Oliver, and Mabel, and you're trying to figure out who did this so you can clear your own names, of course you're going to read them minutes and go, we got to put Nina at the front of this list of suspects. So someone, another thing we learned, someone called Bunny about that painting. And we don't know who it was, but I got the impression that this person had called her multiple times about this painting. One thing that I would consider is that I wonder if this person calls her because they are not in her immediate area to actually ask her face to face. So, like, is it someone who's not around at the time calling her to ask about this painting? Could it be Cara Delevingne's character? I don't know. I think so. She owns an art gallery. Why not? The waiter at the restaurant. She apparently has been routinely giving this guy large sums of money. The envelope said something like, to my favorite something, or I think it had his name, but his hand was covering it, but his name was Ivan. It said my favorite, I'm assuming, waiter. Why has she been giving him these large sums of money? And she says another metaphor, I think, for her not wanting to leave this job. She tells him, never love just one thing, because if you lose that thing, then everything goes to shit. And again, I think she's talking about that job. Like, she loved that job of being board president, and now she's losing it. Now she feels that emptiness. But why would she give this guy this much money? Who was the waiter that was there the previous day that caused that replaced Ivan, who missed his shift, and saw that Bunny was talking to somebody else, and then Bunny's very like, oh no, that person's not a friend. Who was that? And who was that waiter? I think next week, well, I don't know how Charles, Oliver, and Mabel would figure out that they need to find out who this waiter is, but we need to find out who this waiter is. So at the very end of the episode, we see this person come to kill Bunny. They emerge from the elevator. They have on boots and what looked kind of like almost like hazmat suit pants. And then when they reach for her, we see like these big rubber gloves, like again, like hazmat suit kind of gloves. Like this is a person who deals with hazardous materials. But I don't think that's the case, because you're not going to wear your work attire to your murder. It could just be a thing like, I plan on spilling a lot of blood and I don't want to get it on me. But I think this person's attire is going to come into play. And I couldn't help but notice when this person got off the elevator, we see boots and pants from the knee down. Then we see the glove. I also noticed that they put a pretty big emphasis on Nina's feet when she was doing whatever it was she was doing to help make the baby come. So, and Bunny was looking at that, which made me look at him like, she's really interested in what she's doing with her feet. So I wonder if there's some sort of correlation there. I don't know what it could be. But yeah, I'm wondering if there's something there that we're going to be able to pick up on that has to do with feet. I already talked about the fact that this is another thing that she was, that Bunny secretly loved this job, and I think she was coming to that realization on her last day, but also that she was lonely. Like, I think that she really craves that being kind of like the center of things. Like when you're the board president. Like, look at how she reacted when she saw Oliver and Charles and Mabel captivating a crowd in this open space area. She came up and she shit on everybody's good time. She shit on those three's good time. She shit on this other guy. She shit on whoever was there. She had something negative to say. And that comes from, I think, her reacting to the fact that she's not going to be the center of attention anymore. Charles, Oliver, and Mabel are now the center of attention. She doesn't like that. So this desire to be the center of attention and to be, not even necessarily beloved, but just the people's focus. That seemed to be pretty important to her. I don't know if that's gonna be a factor, but it's still something that I think is interesting to take into account as far as anything that she might have done to provoke what happened to her. Obviously, I'm not saying she deserved to get killed, but whatever it is whatever motive this person might have had might be tied into her reluctance to hand over the reins. And when I say that, I don't mean that specifically for Nina, but I just mean like her behavior. Like maybe she ruffled the wrong feathers, lashing out at people who are taking away her own shine. So lots of things to consider. I'm really thinking about Cara Delevingne's character and like I said, like a hazmat suit, right? Maybe, and those big gloves, maybe that's something that somebody who paints in an art gallery would have, because you're dealing with a lot of paint, you're liable to get your clothes messy. Like these kinds of things I think kind of lead into Cara Delevingne's character being at the forefront of my suspects. But there's something going on with this waiter. We need to know who this was. We need to know why they got so much money, why she likes this person enough to give them that much money, why, who this other waiter was, who she was talking to that she wasn't friends with. I think those things all kind of factor in. But then again, what if Cara Delevingne's character is the person who called her to ask about the painting, the person she met with the previous day who's not a friend? Maybe that was who she was meeting with. So any number of things. But I want to close out by talking about a couple of things that I found to be pretty cool. I love the bit at the beginning of Oliver and Charles mimicking Bunny. It's like they both had very different impressions, but they both were really, really accurate. I thought that was a really funny scene. And in that same scene, I loved I loved Martin Short. And I don't know why. I just feel in my gut this was totally impromptu. Him talking about the painting with Charles' dad's Jiminy sack in it. Like, and he goes, "Did I just make that up?" I'm certain he just made that up, and I love that phrase. I'm gonna try to start using it. I'm telling you, you guys are gonna hear Jiminy sack come out of my mouth on future videos. I promise you that. And then I also loved when Bunny said, I can't remember who she was talking about, but she said they were useless as tits on a nun. I thought that was pretty clever as well. So let me know what you guys think of this week's developments, what we learned. The fact that this episode largely focused on Bunny. We didn't see too many of the main character, of our main group of three. But when we did, they were pretty interesting. So let me know what you thought. Let me know if there's anything I missed that you think is important, that's worth discussing in the comments. And I'll see you guys next week for episode 4. Peace.